Hello, everybody. It's me. I'm back again. Something different, something weird. And sorry I haven't streamed earlier this week. It was the intention. I got caught up in sorting out a game of Arkham Horror to play with my nephew, which we completed yesterday. I thought we were going to get our absolute arses handed to us, and in the end, we managed to prevail. Yay, go us! Which is great for an 11-year-old. Well, he's not even 11; he's 10. Sorry, 10-year-old lad, having defeated the forces of evil and the H.P. Lovecraft horrible tentacled monsters with blood, ichor, gore, goop, and everything else all over the place. So that was quite an achievement. If you've played the game, then I love it. I think it's great. It just takes forever to put decks together. So my mind's been there, and I've been remiss, and I haven't streamed. And I promised you guys that I was going to do this particular deck. I promised I was going to do it about 3 or 4 streams ago. And then when I started to look at it, I thought I need to probably do 2 other streams beforehand in order for you to not understand the context, but see where its origins came from. And I'm claiming this deck. I made this. I drew inspiration from other things, which I've seen. If you see the Smash Orc deck from Outlaw, I don't think he can claim that. I think a number of other people playing around with OmniMech podcast, Joe Garcia being another one, which is why I streamed his big mech deck and had a look at that and the resource building. And one of the cards that came out after some time was the DCI only promo double overtime. And this card is just absolutely bonkers in the right place, and in the wrong place, it's absolutely pants. And in true Wizards of the Coast style, they released 1,000 of them as a DCI promo. They gave them out to everybody, and then they discovered there was actually an errata to it, having actually printed the card and sent it out. And you'd have thought, guys, couldn't you have just done a little bit of quality control beforehand and saved yourself an awful lot of hassle and an awful lot of confusion, and an awful lot of rules updates and erratas and all those other changes? So I think there's a message there of check everything before you issue it, and make sure it's right. So the original card says reveal one of your units under construction, double the number of construction counters on that card. Okay, and okay, it's got no armor, no structure, but it doesn't seem to go away. And then when you actually look at what it should say, it should have a scrapped when revealed um, line on it. But let's look at it in that respect. It costs you nothing, and you've just doubled those counters. Now, if there's one counter on a mech and you double it, you get to 2, which isn't that great. And you just think, why don't I play a resource and tap it? That would be so much easier because, surprise, surprise, I get the resource next turn and the turn after, assuming it doesn't get hunted, and onwards and onwards and onwards. And such is my quandary with war funds. However, this doesn't do that. Once you get to a certain amount of counters, this allows you to turbocharge huge mechs because you only have to pay for half of them. Okay, it only doubles the number of construction counters. It doesn't double the buyouts, but you still have to pay the buyouts. So, okay, this card we are going to abuse. We are going to abuse to a state that if this was actually recognised by the police, we would be arrested, given the amount of abuse that we are going to dish out here. Okay. And as I've said in the title of the stream, this is a Daishi deck. So we need our Daishis, and that's the whole point of the series. The 3 decks that I'm doing, Little Long Lost Daishi, Daishi, and now the other one, which I'm not going to tell you the title of because that's another stream, maybe this week, in fact, if you're lucky. So we want a Daishi, and if we do the search, then yes, we get our Daishis. We'll put a couple of primes in, but the Daishi we want, is the big old grandmother herself, the monstrous evil thing that is Widowmaker, the 4-10-12, which is the highest single damage in the game if my memory is good. Daishi Prime only does 11 on its own, although it overheats for 6+6 and alphas for 2, so you can get that up to 19. Widowmaker, you just overheat and get to 19, so you don't have to alpha strike, which is quite nice. And this monster has long range 4. So if anything blocks it, it can just shoot 4 straight through to the pile. It is the big old grandmother of everything. It's the honkiest mech in the game, the biggest thing around. And getting one of those on the table on turn 3, ooh, that'd be quite nice, wouldn't it? And in fact, getting it in the patrol region turn 3 to attack would be even better. And that's what we're going to do. So we've got our double overtimes in there because we're going to use those and turbocharge stuff. And we've got our Widowmaker and we've got our Daishi Prime. The problem is these have all got munitions buyouts and other stuff. And getting 10 counters to make a Widowmaker is too expensive. And even getting, well, still going to be 10 counters again to get a Daishi Prime is going to be too expensive. So we are going to use one of the other Daishis. And it's obviously the poor man's Daishi, the slightly jaundiced version, honey-coloured, green background Daishi B. And our goal is going to be to build a Daishi B. Now, all of a sudden, we have gone from 20 counters to 12 counters. And that means that with double overtime, we could theoretically get this on the board with 6 counters. And that's realistic. So we want a load of Daishi Bs. They're great. 4, 11, 7, overheat 6+4. Okay, it's probably the worst of the Daishis damage-wise. When you look at the A, it's a straight 12. When you look at the S, it's an 11 with an alpha 3, AP1. This one overheats 6 for 4. It gets to 11, but it's probably the weakest Daishi. But we don't care. We're not going to use it in that respect. We're going to build this and then we're going to turn it into Widowmaker. Give it a few upgrades, a bit of mech tech on the field kind of thing. So, how are we going to turn it from a Daishi B into a Widowmaker? And the answer to that is our wonderful friend from our Smashhawk deck, the Omni-Mech Pod Cache. And we are going to use that cheaty little rule in Omni-Mech Pod Cache. Okay? Remember that Omni-Mech Pod Cache says scrap Omni-Mech Pod Cache to search your stockpile. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Scrap any Omni-Mech. We're not scrapping the pod cache. We're just scrapping the mech itself to search your stockpile for any configuration of that mech. For example, you can scrap a Puma A to search for a Puma Prime ABC. For each point by which the base construction cost of the new mech exceeds the old one, pay a resource, okay, or scrap a card, okay. Put the new mech into your patrol region, activated. Shuffle your stockpile afterwards and use this ability during your deploy phase. So we are going to, and this is the great thing, we're going to build a Daishi B. We're going to Omni-Mech Pod Cache it whilst it's coming out of the mech hangar, having just been built, and we're going to turn it into Widowmaker. We are going to scrap the difference between 12 and 28 cards, and then we are, because it's in the patrol region before our mission phase starts, go and attack our opponent. And then we're probably going to overheat for 7 extra on top of the 12 and do 19 damage. So I've taken a hit of 8 to do 19 to the other guy. And, you know, my rule of thumb is often you need to do about 40-ish damage. 19 is halfway to 40. So that's halfway, and then you've got the next turn. So that's the real steal if you can do it. Okay. So we've got our mechanisms set up of turning our Daishi B into our Widowmaker, and or a Daishi Prime. If you like the red and purple, you can go with good old Daishi Prime. If you like the slightly more orange and yellow, you can go with Widowmaker. Whatever floats your boat. Okay. So the question is, how do we get our Daishi B built to start with? Well, we use 6 of our double overtime, but we need some resources. So good old support, and as Omni-Mech Pod Cache needs A and L, assembly and logistics, as does our Daishi B. The two resources we want to primarily focus on are assembly and logistics. So I want to put 8 assemblies in there, and I'm going to go with, I think it's a yellowish day. Yeah, yellowish day. So I'm going to go with the blue and yellow logistics. Okay. And then I also need to fuel this. And I'm going to use 2 cards. The first one is War Funds. And I'm going to go with 6 War Funds because that allows me to go and get any resource card I want. We're not playing League, we're playing the proper game here. And from that point of view, War Funds will get you any resource card, any card with the resource keyword, not the asset. So if you're in League, sorry guys, you don't get to play with this. And the card that I wanted to get came out of Joe Garcia's deck, which is Field Construction Site. And we're going to put in probably, we're just going to go with 2, I think. Maybe 3. Maybe 3. Okay. So with Field Construction Site, you tap it for 0. Sorry. You scrap your war funds. You go and pick this up. It costs 0, so you can put it straight out. You tap it for 1, and then you scrap it for another 2. So it gives us a 3 resource boost. Okay. And with double overtime, that's literally 6 resources. It's half of our Daishi. So all we need to do is be able to actually get to 3 resources, then tap and scrap. And at this point, I'll save this dash Daishi, and I'll save it, and I'll just load it, and will literally show the stockpile to everybody, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so on turn 1, this assumes you're going second, which is the worst case. So on turn 1, you start with an assembly and a Daishi, and you put 1 counter on the Daishi. Okay, tapping our assembly for that. Okay, I'm showing them face up just for convenience. So I've got 1 counter on my Daishi. Next turn, I will untap that, and then I will then go and play a logistics, and I will tap the logistics for 1 and play a war funds. Okay. So I can then tap that, and increase my Daishi counters. Where are we? 2, 3. Okay. All right. So I've now got 3 counters on my Daishi B. Okay. That's turn 2. Turn 3, I untap everything, and my first deployment is 1, 2, 3 from an Omni Mech Pod cache. Okay, I then scrap my war funds to go and get Field Construction Site. I tap my Field Construction Site for 1, and then I scrap it for 2 more. This gets me 6 on my Daishi. Okay, I've made 1 deployment so far, which is the Omni Mech Pod cache, and then at this point I go and play, because it costs 0, my double overtime, and this increases this to 12. There we go. Scrapped it. Okay. This now comes out to play, but I will tap my Omni Mech Pod cache. I scrap my Daishi B. I go and find the card I really want to put into play, and it goes into play in my patrol region. That's the end of my deploy phase. It's now my missions phase. I can now tap and hit you for 19. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the principle. That's why it's called Dash Daishi, because the Omni Mech Pod cache tricks it from being constructed into the patrol region, and off it goes and mullers something, i.e. the other guy's stockpile. Okay, so that's how it works. That's the utopia. Okay, for those of you thinking, oh my god, why doesn't everyone play this deck, and that's so broken, then your responses, or my responses, are yes, when it works, it is so broken. When it doesn't work, it is not so broken at all, because you're in trouble. Okay. How often does it work? about a third of the time. So you want to play relaxed, you want to play a bit of fun with your mates and scare the bejesus out of them, go get this deck and go and hit them for 19 on turn 3. That's fine. It's fun. It's never going to win a tournament, but it's a different take and it's a different bit of fun. So here I am on 45 cards. What else am I going to put in my deck? Okay, I would probably go with the usual suspects at this point. We have, guess our Daishi B's a Clan Smoke Jag, and our Widowmaker is Wolf. Some of you may have been screaming at this point, but I was always going to put in, it is the Invading Clans, isn't it? You put the Invading Clans in so you can have any clan that you fancy. That's all right. When you assign damage during a mission, you cannot have more than 2 units deal damage to any opposing unit. What do I care? What do I care? I haven't got 2 units. I've got Widowmaker in one of them. So, okay. So what else do you put in the deck? Well, we've got Wolf, we've got Smoke Dragon, we've got Invading Clans. You can put in what you fancy. I would suggest that you consider something like the Fenris series. You could go with the Fenris C or the Fenris A, and probably Fenris B them. Maybe we go for, let's go for 4 Fenris Bs, and I'll put 3 Cs and 3 A's in. It's probably better with 3 Cs, 6 Cs. But if not, you can always Omni Mech Pod either of those into the B. The other thing to note, and everybody forgets this, is that in this game, if somehow your opponent decides to, or actually manages to do damage to Widowmaker, you're gonna love this. This is just so bad. Say Widowmaker has got, let's put some damage on it. Let's put 6 damage on it. It's a hurting puppy. It's a 4/11. If I overheat it, I might hurt myself. I might die. What do? You tap your Omni Mech Pod case. You scrap Widowmaker. This is the fun bit. And then you go and put your Daishi B on. And of course, all the damage counters disappear because we've scrapped Widowmaker. Bit of a shame that, but we've now got a fresh Daishi B. Sorry, Daishi Prime, which still does 19 damage if we really want to L for it. We're probably going to go and hit it with 17 and overheat. Okay, so you can effectively heal your mechs with Omni Mech Pod Cache by scrapping them and putting a replacement in. The only problem is that you need to basically have that mech in your deck. Now, what have we got left? We got 5 cards left, so we're probably going to go, just because we can, probably worth putting a black market or 2 in there, and then maybe just because we could maybe get away with a bit of dash, I'd put a couple of Phantom Ds in there. You might put a Dash of Prime in or 2, for example. You could drop a couple of the Fenrises. I need another Fenris A there, if I remember rightly. So let's just organise these on type. Fenris Cs, 3 Fenris Bs, 4, 1 Widowmaker, 2 Daishi Primes, 6 Daishi Bs, 2 Phantom Ds, 3 Fenris As. So we can play with our Fenrises and upgrade them to the Bs. We can change our Widowmaker into Daishi Prime. I mean, if you want, you can even, if you run out of Daishi Primes, you can even just downgrade it if it's going to die and then put a Daishi B out there. And you don't take any damage because you pay the difference on Omni Mech Pod Cache. If the mech, for every point by which the base construction of the new mech exceeds that of the old, pay R. So I'm sorry, but with Omni Mech Pod Cache, you can effectively heal everything. It doesn't cost you any damage. It's only when you go up in scale, which is why you always go and go for Widowmaker first, and then you can drop down. So the eagle-eyed among you will say, why are there 2 field construction sites when you've actually got 3 honking great Daishis? The plan there is as follows. It's really, really simple. You will probably need, well, the situation is that you will get a second Daishi out using the field construction site double overtime trick. And from that point of view, you will get a second Daishi on the table. And at that point, it's game over. It is possible with one Daishi on the table that your opponent has a method of dealing with it. For instance, if we look at Widowmaker, 5+7, and then you look at the Inferno Missile Retrofit, which basically says double the overheat damage and apply it to itself. Just for 1 3M and attacking Widowmaker, you can turn the overheat 5 into 10 damage against Widowmaker on a 411. And if you happen to have a couple of dashes or a dasher and a Fenris or something or other like that early on, you can kill Widowmaker early. It is possible. It's not very often, but it is possible. So the Omni Mech Pod trick to heal it is great. But generally, if you can get that down, the guy is going to chump block. And he can probably at best turn out 2 units a turn, unless he's playing with free deploys. And therefore, he can probably chump block and you shoot through 4, chump block, you shoot through, or chump block, you shoot 4. However, if you can get 2 on the table, Daishis or otherwise, even if it's a Daishi B, he cannot generate, or he can generate 2 mechs a turn, and therefore he can chump block both of yours. But that gives you the advantage because you can then start spanking him with the Fenrises or the Phantom D. Note that a field construction site on its own with a double overtime will get you a Phantom D on the table. In reality, that is possible. Turn 2 of a game, because you could start with field construction site, then next turn you go Phantom D, 3 counters, double overtime. Phantom D's on the board. You've got no resources, but you've got a dashing mech and you can hit him for 4. I wouldn't advise it. It leaves you a bit short. So from that point of view, so really there are 2 field construction sites in there because at best you probably want to be able to pull off 2 Daishis, get 2 on the table. Double overtime is sufficiently powerful enough that with a few resources you can bring something out. For example, if you've got 2 double overtime, you double once, you double twice. Those are your 2 deployments to double the cost. So you've got 3 resources on a mech, double it to 6, double it again to 12. Then it's quite achievable to get a Daishi B out in that case. Or any of the Fenrises by sacrificing various cards and other bits and bobs. So you can still turn out units with this deck, and as I said, you probably want 2 Daishis to make sure. 1 is often good enough once you've done it, but the combo is quite difficult. It's not that difficult when you think about it. You can AL double overtime, war funds, and a Daishi. So you're looking for 5 cards really in your combo, which means it's not the easiest thing to turn up. But my point is that if it doesn't quite turn up and you can't pull it on turn 3, it's still possible to turn or take effect on turns 4 or 5. And at that point, the game probably isn't lost because my problem will be, or my question will be, if you haven't got it working until turn 5, what else have you been doing? And the chances are you've probably put a Fenris out or got your war funds down and you've got a blocker or 2 or something or other like that. So it is a bit of an all or nothing deck, but if it doesn't quite click first turn 3, as we've shown on there, then it's still doable and achievable. And yes, I've played it. I didn't play it in a tournament because it's, as I said, unreliable. Played it and pulled it off. There is a famous clip of Gustav. I think it's with this combo. It might be the other combo where he's about to pull it off, and Travis DC's in like a fit of precognition because he knows he's going to die, kind of thing. I've got a feeling it's the other deck, which I'm going to do hopefully later this week. The final Daishi deck. You never know. I might do it sooner than that. We'll see. But that's the Daishi deck. We'll just go through it for clarity. We'll view it tiled so you can see everything that's in there. There are 2 field construction sites and war funds which combine with double overtime to fuel your A and L based Omni Mech Pod cache. You build up loads of counters on a Daishi B and tap your Omni Mech Pod cache to put a Daishi Prime or a Widowmaker out on the table. In the meantime, you can play around with some of the Fenrises, and there's a couple of Phantoms in there as a fast dashing deck to just hammer home any final damage that you need. There are more than enough double overtimes in here to pull off the trick. There are 2 field construction sites to get you 2 big Daishi Bs to Daishi Primes. And again, you might even just not bother Omni Mech Pod caching the Daishi B into the Daishi Prime. If you get your Daishi B on the table, attack with it until it's nearly dead, then Omni Mech Pod it to another one, and away you go again. Same thing obviously works with the Black Hawks. But there you go. So 2 field construction, 6 war funds, 6 double overtime, 2 black market, 6 Omni Mech Pod caches, 8 assembly, 8 logistics, Fenris C and Fenris A to suit your benefit. There are 6 slots in there just for equality. I put 3 of each in to make the 6 up. You can go with whatever you fancy to transform into Fenris B. 1 Widowmaker, 2 Daishi Primes, 6 Direwolf Daishi Bs, and 2 Phantom Ds. And there's your deck. Okay. Try it, see how you feel, have some fun with it. As ever, it's my take on it. I claim to have created this one. As I said, I've done the Smash Hawk deck, which the Omni Mech Pod was primarily the theme there, and I've looked at the other Innisphere stuff and using double overtime and things like that, and marrying the 2 together, and then changing it from one faction into another, and the availability of the invading clans allows you to create such a monster which will either work incredibly well or fall apart incredibly quickly. But it is fun. It is a bit different. It's not another 3 deploy mech. It's not another 2-3 cost Innisphere slow mech, etc. etc. It's not a load of loud, dirty tricks or any of the other stuff. It's fun. Play it, try it, put it together, do what you want with it. You can decide whether you like it or not. When I posted it originally on the group about 3 or 4 years ago, before someone told me that all my stuff was absurd and I removed it, people said, "Oh my god, that's broken," and everyone wanted to ban double overtime straight away. I had to calm everyone down and say, right, just do the maths on this. Do the maths on this and be realistic. Do not knee jerk and ban everything just because someone showed you a combo that works. That doesn't mean you should knee jerk like that. You need to look at everything in context. And in context, this is a fun deck. It's never going to win a tournament unless you are incredibly lucky. You know, if you think you're Clint Eastwood with and Dirty Harry, you know, go on punk make my day. Then go for it. If not, just pull it out, play it, and have some fun, which is what it's designed for. But it was more designed in a way when I did it to prove that you could do it, not that it would be consistent or break the game. It was to prove that you can actually achieve some of these things. So anyway, probably for the 3rd time, have fun with it, enjoy. If there's any comments on it, let me know. Give me some feedback. If you like what you've heard, hit the like button. If that's on Twitch, hit the follow button. If it's on YouTube, and if there's anything you want, let me know. I mean, I literally am your BattleTech CCG tart. I will do or try to do whatever you fancy. If you want a card review, let me know. I'll do a card review. If you want a deck building around something, that sounds like a challenge to me and a bit of fun. 1 or 2 of you taking me up on that. If you want a critique, I'll do that. If you want card reviews or other things, then just say hit me up. If you want more of the tiering system that I did with Crusade, let me know about that. I can carry on doing that But there seems little point if people aren't overly keen, or anything else. I mean, if you want a game, then I could probably do that. You know, I'm as rusty as hell and haven't played a deck in ages. Um, but I'll happily do that. Or if you want a bit of coaching or whatever, then let me know. It's I've done things very very openly with a few players where we've played a game and they've actually said, right, what would you do in this situation? And they show me the hand, and you play you play the game from both perspectives, and helping them learn. So yeah, I don't mind. I'm quite happy. I'm here to try and document and record some of the history, put out some other ideas that are not meta, and play around with it. I'm not here to net deck the World Championships decks and play those. Although I know I did the Rocky Gorge thing a little while ago, but that was because I felt it was so wrong, and some of the conclusions drawn were way off piste. Um, so anyway, so if there's anything you fancy, let me know. As ever, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. Thank you for listening. Take care and look after yourselves. It's a big old bad world out there.